Welcome into the College Basketball Bracket Science YouTube channel. We have a fun episode for you today. We're going to do the stats to know when picking your national champion. We are going to cut it all the way down to three that based on historical facts, some of the stats, some of the KenPom stats, only three teams statistically, if history repeats itself, can be the national champion this year. We're going to talk about all of those. Before we dive into it, for more stuff like this, be sure to just hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps us out. And be sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We're going to be posting all of these stats, so it'll keep you up to date. That's at Bracket Science with 2 S's. Let's dive right into it, starting with some KenPom stats. Every single national champion in the KenPom era has been inside the top 57 in offensive efficiency, in top 44 in defensive efficiency pre-tournament. We don't want to know what happens at the end of the tournament because we are pre-tournament. We want to know who you can pick. So this cuts it down to 29. I swear we're going to get deeper into it, but there are some notable teams that get left off. So the teams that do fit this criteria: Auburn, Duke, Alabama, Florida, Gonzaga, Houston, Texas Tech, Wisconsin, Illinois, Clemson, Arizona, Iowa State, Mississippi State, Louisville, Tennessee, Maryland, Marquette, Ohio State, Michigan State, Ole Miss, Oregon, St. Mary's, Michigan, VCU, UCLA, UC San Diego, Creighton, and Georgia. So keep it in the back of your mind. I'm sure some of these teams are like, yeah, they're not going to win a national championship. Is Ohio State going to win a national championship? Probably not, but statistically they do fit the category. So this cuts it down to 29. Let's talk about some of the notable teams that are left off of this. St. John's doesn't do it offensively. They don't fit the criteria. They're going to be a popular pick come March, as is Kentucky. Kentucky has been a little bit beaten up. They're not there defensively. Kansas, not there offensively. Preseason number 1. UConn looking to go for the three-peat. People are going to say that Dan Hurley just has Dan Hurley mentality in March and will win. They do not fit the criteria. Neither does Memphis, Purdue, Missouri, BYU, Baylor, Vanderbilt. Those are some of the notable teams that do not fit the criteria. So we're cut down to 29 right now. Let's cut it down a little bit even more. This one is the Week 6 AP poll. The top 12 has been, every national champion over the past 20 years has been in the top 12 of the Week 6 AP poll. I know this seems a little bit fluky. The AP poll is, for what we know, they're not the smartest in the world. But the AP poll, to me, this does mean something because it's that specific week where it's like, yeah, there's your preseason, thought behind this team, who's going to be real talented, who's not. And then this is kind of the week where teams come into their own. It's been 20 years in a row. Why would that streak stop now? So these 12 kind of cut it down a little bit even more. So some of the teams that were in that first one that are also in the second one: Tennessee, Auburn, Iowa State, Duke. Remember, Kentucky not eligible, so that cuts it down to 11. Marquette, Alabama, Gonzaga, Florida, Kansas, Purdue, and Oregon. So Kansas and Purdue not eligible. That cuts it down to 9 as of right now, including that AP poll. Let's dive into it even a little bit deeper. So 22 out of the 23 champions in the KenPom era have been top 21 in offensive efficiency going into the tournament. 21 out of 23 champions have been top 29 in defensive efficiency. So these are once again pre-tournament. These are the teams that fit that list: Auburn, Duke, Florida, Houston, Texas Tech, Clemson, Arizona, and Iowa State. These are your 8 teams that fit this identical criteria. Let's keep going. Let's dive into the next one. Since 1998, 22 out of 26 national champions finished top 2, including ties, so you can be tied for second, in their final conference standings. Most of these fluky ones, I will admit, like where it's 22 out of 26, most of the times where it was a fluke was UConn. So if you want to throw UConn into the conversation, like that 7-seeded UConn team, even that 3-seeded UConn team with Kemba Walker just kind of defied the numbers. So if you want to throw them in the conversation, I'm hearing you out. Here are the teams that fit this, top 2 in their conference standings. And this also goes hand in hand. There's never been a mid-major that has won the national championship. Since KenPom outside of UConn when they were in the American. So Gonzaga, if you want to throw them in the conversation, I'll hear you out. They're probably going to be, an 7 through 9 seed. Same goes for Memphis, who's going to be probably a little better seed, but no mid-major has won it outside of UConn. So you got Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Houston, Texas Tech, Arizona, St. John's, Marquette, Creighton, Duke, Louisville, Clemson, Michigan State, and Michigan. So keep in mind those teams that have already been fit in the criteria. We'll get into the national championship tiers here in a second. Moving on, since 2000, once again, defying the expectations other than teams named UConn. So I did throw UConn on this graphic. Only 3 national champions have not been a number 1 seed. And so these teams that are, potential number 1 seeds as of right now, plus UConn, as mentioned, Auburn, Duke, and Houston probably going to be number 1 seeds. The battle for the last number 1 seed, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, and even Michigan State's kind of in that conversation. There's a path, but going to be a little bit more difficult. So every single team since 2000, other than 3 of them, have been a number 1 seed. So let's dive into what this means for the championship tiers. Tier 1, these teams are missing 0 of the categories. Auburn, Duke, and Florida. Those are your best bets for picking a national champion. Now, Florida could fall out of this if they don't end up a number 1 seed. Auburn's a lock for a number 1 seed. Duke is pretty much a lock for a number 1 seed. Florida, not quite all the way there, so they could drop to this tier 2. So a lot of people have been saying it's going to be Auburn or Duke. If history repeats itself, it will be. Your tier 2, missing 1 category, Houston and Alabama. So, if you're fitting into that 22 out of 26 where it's not 100%, if you want to go for Houston or Alabama, I'm hearing you out. In tier 3, there's only 6 more teams. So technically, only 11 teams have a real chance of winning a national championship. Really, if you're going off of the, 100% history, Auburn and Duke. But tier 3, missing 2 categories, Tennessee, Texas Tech, Michigan State, Iowa State, Arizona, and Clemson. These are your national champion tiers as of right now, as it stands. These are the teams who can win the national championship. Now, the only other thing I wanted to dive into is just a few other just fun facts about March Madness that doesn't really have to do with the national champion. So I'll keep this graphic up for now, but we'll talk about the other ones. In 15 of the last 16 NCAA tournaments, a top 4 seed, a protected seed, has lost in the first round. Most recently, last year, Kentucky losing to Oakland. So it's very popular to pick the 11 seeds over 6 seeds, very popular to pick the 12 seeds over 5 seeds. But in 15 of the last 16, a top 4 seed has lost. Another stat, a double-digit seed has made the Sweet 16 in the past 16 NCAA tournaments. A double-digit seed. It's been the 11 seeds that have been hot as of late. Last year, NC State did it. Syracuse has done it a few times. A double-digit seed made the Sweet 16 the past 16 tournaments. The next one, this is actually a graphic that I'm pulling up that we posted last year prior to March Madness. Now, look how far the graphics have come. This is not the prettiest looking graphic. It's not awful, I guess, but this was posted just before March Madness last year. These were the teams that were top 25 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. There were 10 teams. Now, what do you notice about 9 out of 10 of these teams, subtracting Auburn? 9 of these 10 teams made the Sweet 16 last year. So if you're in the top 25 on both sides of the ball, you're looking like you're in pretty good shape. Obviously, these top 2 teams, Purdue and UConn, met in the national championship. Arizona made the Sweet 16. Duke made the Elite 8. Creighton and Houston made the Sweet 16. Tennessee made the Elite 8. And Marquette and North Carolina also made the Sweet 16, while Auburn got bounced in the first round. So the KenPom stats, top 25, both offensive and defensive efficiency, something to think about. All righty, that is going to do it. Just a quick little video to kind of help while filling out your bracket for this upcoming year. Let me know who you're thinking is going to win the national championship. Are you all the way in on Auburn? Are you all the way in on Duke? Do you think it could be Florida, Alabama, Houston? Let me know in the comments. Really curious about what everyone's feeling this year. I personally lean Auburn. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button before you leave. Hit the post notification so you are up to date on stats like this. We're going to be posting at least a couple times a week, every single week throughout March Madness. So be sure to do that while following us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at Bracket Science with 2 S's. Be sure to check that out. Everyone enjoy the March Madness basketball the rest of the week. We'll talk to you again soon. See you later.